when he returned to Plains, Georgia in 1981. Former Democratic President Jimmy Carter was defeated, rejected by voters in a landslide election to Republican Ronald Reagan.
In office, he was a political failure, but he was a substantive and visionary success.
Author and historian Jonathan Alter recognizes what many know Carter for today: humanitarian work with his Carter Center, waging peace, fighting disease, and building hope around the world.
He's done terrific work supervising elections in more than 100 countries, but former presidents don't have as much power as presidents. And the list of his accomplishments as president that were ignored or minimized or forgotten entirely was very long.
The Iran hostage crisis, rising inflation, and oil embargoes of the 1970s doomed Carter's White House tenure, casting a long shadow over his legacy. However, Alter's Jimmy Carter biography, His Very Best, is among several that conclude his 4 years in the White House were anything but a failure.
Not just Camp David Accords and opening diplomatic relations with China, but a long string of legislative accomplishments on the environment and many other issues.
Carter signed the 1980 Alaska National Interest Lands Conservation Act, protecting more than 40.5 million hectares, which Alter says is now considered one of the most important pieces of environmental legislation ever passed.
I think we'll remember President Carter as a president who served in enormously difficult times, who had to deal with circumstances that were far beyond his control.
Joe Crispino, the Jimmy Carter Professor of History at Emory University, says Carter routinely met with his students in Atlanta to discuss the good and bad decisions he made while president.
Putting human rights front and center in American foreign policy. No president had done that in the way that Jimmy Carter had. And it was an important moment in kind of shifting the balance of power in the Cold War.
Crespino says some of Carter's overlooked domestic accomplishments include reorganizing the federal government and deregulating the airline, trucking, and beer industries.
We oftentimes associate a kind of freeing up of the free enterprise economy with the conservative turn that came in with Ronald Reagan, when in fact Jimmy Carter, before Reagan, was already doing a lot of deregulatory work.
Members of Carter's cabinet, including former United Nations Ambassador Andrew Young, are grateful Carter lived long enough to witness kinder interpretations of his legacy.
There's no place in the world I know where people don't have some good things to say about him, whether he succeeded or not.
The world continues to benefit from the Carter Center's work, fighting diseases like guinea worm, which is down to a few cases in Africa and could become only the second disease ever eradicated. Kane Fairbaugh, VOA News, Atlanta.